Now on to the first of a classic tale from the best-loved Time Lord. Doctor Who faces the demons, now newly restored.
Everyone, and welcome back. This is Tired Gamma 3, and today I have another review for you. This time it's the third Doctor story, The Dæmons. So yeah, this is the finale to Season 8, which is Jon Pertwee's second season in a row, and it's also the first to feature Jo Grant and the Master. And it kind of like ties up this overarching thread of the Master for a while, with every story of the season featuring him and some kind of plot or whatever. So yeah, this is the final one. This is a 5-part, which is quite odd. It's one of only 3 5-part stories in the entire of the series. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the only 5-part serial that was originally envisaged to be a 5-part serial. Because the other 2, first of which is The Dominators, which was originally a 6-part one, then got cut down to a 5-part one at a very late stage. And then that was followed by The Mind Robber, which was originally going to be a 4-part one, but because of The Dominators being cut down to 5, this one had to be pushed up to 5. So yeah, there may have been some story behind this, but as far as I know, this is the only one that was a 5-parter start to finish. So yeah, that's that out of the way. So story itself, part 1 is very atmospheric start up to the story. It's quite interesting, quite intriguing, and one of the best first parts of a story ever. It's got some decent humour in it, and yeah, but mainly it's just intriguing. It's actually got quite a bit of humour in it, but then again a lot of this story does, but it's not kind of like humour that gets in the way of the plot, it's just humour that goes along with the plot. So yeah, but it's also got some mysterious stuff, some of which isn't really explained, and some people don't like this because it's a bit too... Some people think it's too technobabbly, and some people think it's a bit too unscientific with a lot of the story ideas. And there's one part where the policeman picks up a when kind of like this big gust of wind comes on, and the policeman picks up a rock and is about to hit Miss Hawthorne over the head with it, and meanwhile she's doing some chant which stops the wind, and then when the wind stops he's right behind her about to hit her, and then he thinks, what's he doing? And just forgets everything. And yeah, that little bits like that are never really explained properly. But you kind of like get the general idea that it's just the demons, the science of the demons, or the Dæmons, or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, that's that part of it done. Jon Pertwee himself is quite good in this. There was one line that some people get annoyed by. I found it quite funny when he's in the Cloven Who talking to Jo, and Jo says of all the idiotic schemes they're going to try blowing it up, and then that's kind of the thing that the Doctor says all the time. The Doctor instead responds with, I think you should have a bit more respect for me, he's trying his best, which is usually the thing Jo says to him. So it's just kind of like she picks up something from him and gets ridiculed for it, and you kind of then you have a nice smile from Benton afterwards, and Mike Yates kind of scowls at him and he stops. So yeah, little things like that. I think this story was very much written with the regulars in mind, as it was written by Barry Letts and Robert Sloman. I think it was Robert Sloman. It might not have been. Sorry, but they both did it under the pseudonym Guy Leopold. But yeah, some of them didn't actually know it was Barry until many years later, I think. But yeah, that's quite an interesting thing, and it really does feel like it's written for them, because I mean, Jo gets a decent amount to do in this. There's nothing really exceptional about her character in this. It's kind of mostly the same, but I think it's strong nonetheless. And Katie Marion does give a brilliant performance as ever. Which does have some nice interaction with Jon Pertwee and Richard Franklin, who plays Mike Yates. Mike Yates, it's a decent amount to do with it, doing this. He does some good stuff in civvies. Both him and Ben to get their chance in civvies rather than their usual unit outfit, and it makes them seem more like companions rather than supporting characters, I guess. Which there's an argument about whether they are companions and everything, but I won't go into that here. So yeah, he's got quite a good part in this. Benton's got quite a good part in this as well. He's got quite a nice double act of Miss Hawthorne at some parts. So yeah, quite like. There's in some places a suggested romance, but I wouldn't really take it that way. Although I think some people would probably. Yeah, it's just a nice kind of like comedy thing, like between them. And the Brigadier, he kind of gets a bit cut short in this story. But that's not too bad, as Mike Yates and Ben to get a lot to do, whereas they would usually not. And the Brigadier would usually be the one representing the unit, but he does get some good lines in all this. He's mainly stuck outside of the what's it called, the heat barrier for most of it, trying to work out what to do there. But there's also a funny scene where he's in bed speaking on the phone, and you just hear him saying, "Well, I'll speak to the doctor." Oh, he's out. Well, I don't suppose it would do any good to speak with Jo. Oh, she's out too. What about Mike Yates or Sergeant Benton? Then you just kind of like get this pause and this amazing look on his face, and then you just outraged. It's like, "My helicopter," and it is such a great line that really did make me laugh. And this story has so many moments like that, which makes me think it really is a good one for the characters. And Barry Letts does a really good job with this one, I think. And I know I'm already saying Barry Letts. I think it's Robert Sloan as well, but I think it's mainly Barry Letts' influence that makes the characters, really. Now, it does have its flaws. Most notably, I think, like that part where I say it doesn't get explained, and there are quite a few parts of that don't get explained that are quite odd. I think it's the perfect length. It's got a good length to it. I think if it was 4 parts, it would have been a bit too rushed. If it was 6 parts, it would have been a bit too long. But I think 5 parts for it works quite well. And you've also got the ending. Now, it wasn't necessarily rushed. I guess you could say it was rushed, but it's just an absurd ending, really. I mean, Jo sacrifice. I mean, the Doctor wins in a way. Zal says, "Oh, I'll give my power to you instead of the Master," and that would save whatnot. And the Doctor goes, "Oh no, I don't want it." So then Zal's like, "Oh, okay, I'll give it to the Master instead then." And which in itself, I guess the Doctor doesn't really want it, which is fair enough, but in a way when you think about it, kind of like, he's now put the Earth in danger again, and the only way he saves it is by Zal's about to kill him, and then Jo says, "No, he's a good man, kill me instead," and Zal, in all his confusion, blows up. Just, yeah, that's what happens. Gets confused about an act of self-sacrifice and blows up. There's the resolution to this story, which is unforgivable, really. And it was such a good story until that happened for me. I think that's the thing that makes it not as good a story. I know some people see this as a true classic, but that quintessential element to it and whatnot, I think just that whole ending lets it down quite a big bit. So that's what's going to affect the rating when it comes to the end of this review to rate it. But yeah, just that ending, there's not much to say about it. It's just odd. I mean, he's not a computer or anything, Zal. He should have, throughout all his years observing humanity, he should have seen acts like this, not necessarily all the time, but I guess given his long lifespan and whatnot in the course of history, he must have seen a fair few things like this. But no, that just strikes me as odd. One person I haven't talked about, Roger Delgado. I think he is definitely my favourite Master, and he is amazing in this. He does quite good as a village vicar. there are some parts unexplained, like how he knows about the science of demons, how he knows to summon them and whatnot. There's kind of like some hint that was passed down. I personally prefer to think of it as from the previous serial, Colony in Space, when he steals the Time Lord's secret plans. I prefer to think of it as he learned some stuff about it from there. Because, I mean, the Doctor obviously knows some stuff about it, and it's never really explained how, so I think we can assume the Master may have learned it from the same source. It's just general Time Lord knowledge or something. Maybe, or I'm not sure, to be honest. But, yeah. So, overall, rating it 8 out of 10. Mainly because of the ending. There are a couple of little flaws here or there, but nothing that really affects it in a big way except for the ending. And there's kind of like, there's this very odd part where the Master's being driven off after he's been captured, because at the end of the story he finally gets captured instead of escaping. Yeah, and then he just drives off, and suddenly everyone, the whole village is booing him. And there's an awful lot of people there, and they're obviously just people from surrounding villages who were watching and went there to watch. You kind of like get this idea of what was that all about. And to be honest, it looks like there's too many people there to actually be from this village, because as you may or may not know, often when they've done these types of things in Doctor Who, when they went to villages, often people from other villages around the place came to watch these types of things. There does seem like an awful lot of people there to be just this village. I guess you could say they came there for May Day, but most of them, as in story, but you can kind of tell that they were from surrounding villages coming to watch Doctor Who be filmed and get to be in the story. So yeah, there were some interesting parts to that, I guess. But overall, I think it's a good story. It's definitely worth buying if you see it. I saw this in W.H. Smith's a couple of weeks ago. I decided to buy it, and yeah, it was quite enjoyable. So 8 out of 10. It's definitely not a bad story. Maybe not. There seems to be this almost trend to hate on stories after these many years. You know, kind of like take good stories and think, oh, maybe they're not as good as all that when they were at the time, and start hating on them. And hey, it works the opposite way around. You often get stories that were ridiculed at the time, have been so for quite a while, and then people start thinking, oh, they might not be too bad. And you know, they get often stories like that happen over time, and some people try to reverse it. Sometimes it does happen, and I think that's kind of been happening with the Demons and picking flaws in it and whatnot. But it is a good story, I think. Maybe not one that warrants its reputation, but one that you should definitely think about picking up and enjoying, especially if you are a John Pertwee fan. So, yep, that's that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Next week's review, I know what it will be this time. It will be Revenge of the Cybermen, the 4th Doctor story, and the only Cyberman story from the 70s. So, yep, Revenge of the Cybermen coming next week. Thank you for watching, everyone, and yep, I'll be speaking to you all next week with that review. Bye, everyone.